So we are going to learn about the use of theories in research. We want to first understand what a theory is. What are the things that make up a theory? What are the different types of theories? How do we get theories? Where do theories come from? And then from there, we'll look at the different ways in which theories influence research, but also how research influences theories. So that's basically what we are going to look at today. So a theory is basically an explanation for how something occurs or how something works, or how different ideas or concepts are connected to one another. That's what a theory is. So for example, it's a theory that explains, we have different ways in which we explain motivation. Okay, so there are very many theories of motivation, and these theories explain that one concept, and that concept is motivation that we're talking about there. So that means that you can have a theory that has more than one concept, or that has more than one idea, but it explains how these ideas are connected to one another, or how these ideas are linked to one another. That means that it is from the concepts and how they are related to one another that we get theories. So that means that the concepts are the building blocks of the theories. Okay, so concepts are abstract, something that you can't actually touch, like what we used yesterday, justice. Like the example that we talked about just now, motivation. These are abstracts. They are not tangible, and you don't have one valid tool to measure them. That's why we call them abstract. Okay, but then we have things that we can actually know that if this is height, it is height, and I can measure it. This height is 1 meter. This height is 2 meters. Okay, so they are concrete. Okay, whereas theories are basically abstract. Okay, generally, in everything that we do in our professional work environments, we are guided by the theories, but we are also guided by how things are being done, that is practice. So we have two things, the theory and then the practice. Okay, so the theory enables you to connect basic concepts that you keep talking about and connect them to a real life situations of observation, such that you can make sense out of them. Okay, and usually you can make sense out of them if you can actually measure them, where we use what you call empirical data after measuring them. So the theories that we use in research can be categorized into three. Grand theories. Something grand is something that is broad. It is not very specific. That means that it talks about something that can be applied to a wider range of fields or frameworks. For example, here, the systems theory. We can use, you can find the systems theory in healthcare, in public health, in business, in almost everywhere. Okay? System theory is about the fact that in an organization, you have interconnected systems. Okay? So if you want to look at the organization, you need to look at these subsystems and how they are interconnected. So that is an example of a grand theory. It can be applied in a wide range of fields. And then we come to what we call mid-range theories. These ones are a little bit focused, and they offer explanations for specific scenarios, okay, for specific scenarios. And for example, here, if we are to use the Donabellian quality of care model as the example, is that we can apply this model in situations of in situations of assessing quality of care. So the key situation is quality of care. So it is not as broad as the other one that we had looked at. Okay, so it is within the middle there. So theories, for example, theories of motivation, theories of conflict resolution, these are specific. Okay, they are specific. There is a specific scenario where you apply them. Okay. And then we come to the last one, which is the macro. The macro theories, for them, they are very specific about the situation that, or the phenomena or the situation that is being talked about. Okay, so it provides a narrow context specific explanation. So for example, if you are going to look at employee burnout, which is a very important topic in human resource management, how are you going to investigate this employee burnout? What theory are you going to apply? For example, in this case, you can look at the role stress theory to do that research on the employee burnout. Okay. So something that is usually similar to a theory is what we call hypothesis. A hypothesis is an educated guess or statement about a relationship between two variables. So, for example, you can say that A causes B. That a person who eats fatty diets is likely to get coronary heart disease. Okay, that's a statement that you make. It's a hypothesis because you have not yet tested it. You actually don't know yet. But you think that when a person eats a fatty diet, they are likely to get coronary heart disease. That is a hypothesis. Okay? So, for example, someone can say that if you give the staff more money, their job satisfaction will increase. That is a statement. And then you go out and ask them if indeed, when they receive more money, they will be more satisfied. Or you can go to one organization where they pay less, and then to go to an organization where they pay more. And then you say, what is the satisfaction level here, and what is the satisfaction level there? If indeed, where they are paying more, the satisfaction levels are high, then it means that your statement is right, your hypothesis is right. So you say, now you have proven that statement that job satisfaction is associated with a huge pay. Okay, so you can, after testing this statement, so a theory is a broader explanation, whereas a hypothesis is just a statement, and just like what you have just said, and then you carry out research or experiments to test if indeed that statement is accurate. Okay, but you can also derive that statement from research. That's why we are saying it is an educated guess. So a hypothesis can emerge from research. Earlier on, we said that a theory comes from concepts. And we said that it is the concepts that are building blocks of theory. Okay? Now, a theory provides the relationship between the concepts. That when you do this, this is what happens. When you do that, this is what happens. So these relationships can be causal or correlational. That A causes B is a causal relationship. But you can have A, when A increases, B decreases. That is a correlation relationship. Are we together? Yes. So there's a relationship, there's a difference between causal and the correlation. Correlational is about one variable changing the other. But changing the other does not mean it is that that causes it. For us in public health, we have a statement that says that correlation is not causation. Correlation is not what? Causation. Correlation is not what? Causation. You get it? So you should be, as a scientist, you should know that causation is not what? Correlation. Not always. Not always. So you should be able to point out the difference. That this is a correlation, but it is not a causation. Okay? And then the last one is the assumptions. For these things to happen, these things should be, the situation should be like this. That is the assumption. Okay, so an assumption is about, for this relationship to happen, under what situation, what is the underlying principle for this relationship that you're talking about? So two terms that you should be aware of: construct and abstract. What is a construct? What is an abstract? You already know that concepts are the building blocks of theories. Okay? But now, what are abstracts and what are constructs? If you have an idea, a conceptual idea that you cannot measure using any tool, that is an abstract. That is an abstract. You don't have a single tool to measure that. That is an abstract. So quality of life or quality of care, these are examples of abstracts. There is one time I did research about quality of care. So I went to one of the hospitals. I found a woman who had just delivered like 2 hours of, about 5 hours ago. So I'm like, okay, this is a good patient for me to interview. So for me, when I entered the facility, I saw things were messed up. I was like, these facilities, things are not moving in the right direction. Because I was using my professional eyes, I can see whether things are right or wrong. When I read the patient, I said, how was the care that you received? The woman said the care was excellent. I was shocked. So I asked, did you get this? I got this on time. The people are caring, everything. You get it? I was shocked. So the concept of quality of care is difficult to measure. Everyone looks at it in their different, using their different lenses. It is a construct. that it is an idea that they have about how things are supposed to be. Okay, so quality of care is an example of an abstract. Okay, and then the construct, for it is measurable. That's the main difference. It is measurable. It is measurable. If we talk about job satisfaction, we can come and have a tool to measure job what? Satisfaction. Okay. If it is about pain, your level of pain, you can have what you call pain scales, and then you measure the level of pain. Okay. So that is a construct. So in every research, you have these things. You have the constructs within the research, and you have the abstracts within the research. And then you need to know what tools are you going to measure using for those abstracts and constructs. So that should be able to link you to what we call variables. All right. The variables can be classified into two: qualitative variables and the quantitative variables. Anything that you can measure is what we call a variable. Okay, so these variables, it can be the level of pain. Level of pain can actually be reported by the patient who is experiencing it, and then we have tools that can measure the level of pain. So it is a construct. Okay, and then we have abstracts. So theories explain the relationships between constructs, abstracts, and then what? Concepts. So you can have a theory that focuses on a construct. You can have a theory that focuses on abstract. You can have a theory that focuses on basically concepts. So theories can be explaining different things. The things that they explain, are they measurable or are they not measurable? And then when they are measurable distinctly, then they are constructs. If they are not, then they are abstracts. So how do we get theories? There are two ways, mainly, and then there is this third one: inductive and then deductive. This one usually, deductive, lines very well with the scientific approach that I explained yesterday. This one aligns very well usually with the qualitative. This one aligns very well with quantitative. Okay, so we are going to explain how this happens. From this slide, you should know that with and this is actually connected to what we call reasoning. And the reason as to why I highly regard research is because the research improves your reasoning. We have what we call inductive reasoning and then deductive reasoning. And this can actually be applied in our daily conversations, our daily decisions. How do you reach at a conclusion? Is it deductively or inductively? So we shall look at that. But with inductive, you start with the data, and then you have a lot of data. And then from this data, you get patterns, and then come up with a theory. With the deductive, you start with a theory, and then you test that theory. Those are the two main differences there. Iterative, the word iterative means that you go on changing as the situation permits. That's the meaning of the word iterative. So you go on refining whether it is a theory, you go on refining it over time as you get more data. That is what we call iterative. So let's look deeper into these things. Deductive research. With this, you have data and then you build a theory from data. So let us say you have a woman who has delivered a premature. And then you want to understand the psychological dimensions or the psychological aspects of delivering a premature. What happens in the woman's mind when they have delivered a premature? So you conduct research. You sit them down in a focused group discussion, or you go interviewing one by one. They give you their stories. I felt the world had ended. I asked myself questions. I don't know why it happened. I think so and so did this to me. You get it? Another will say, I was very strong. I believe God could help me navigate this. I had enough support. And yeah, God has helped me. The child is still alive right now. And then you get another. So through all this data that you have collected, you can conclude and say that when women undergo this situation, this is what they experience generally. And then you can have steps. The first 2 days, this is what they experience. The next 3 days, this is what they experience, like that. So you come up with a theory of women experiences, explaining the experiences that women go through when they have a premature. So everyone will be able to know that when I'm dealing with such a patient, this is what they are likely to be facing when they are in this phase. Okay, that means that you're coming up with a theory that comes from research, but from data. The data is those interviews that you have had, you have analyzed and gotten a pattern that comes out of it and have a theory that is inductive. And commonly, it is associated with the qualitative research approaches. And this is an example. Grounded theory is an example of inductive research, where you interview people, identify the patterns, or we call them themes, in what they are telling you, and then you get a theory out of that data. With the deductive, you start with the testing an existing theory with your data. It's basically the scientific approach that we talk about. An example here is we are saying that with deductive, you use a hypothesis, which we said is that statement that you make, and then you can test that statement, and then you find out whether it is accurate or not accurate. Okay, so that is very important there. So you have deductive and what? Inductive. You have many theories that you can apply in your research. You need to choose the right one. Which theory fits your research? So you have this criteria that you can use. The theory that you have, can you assess it empirically? Can you be able to collect data using the theory that you have? If the answer is no, then you may need to look for another theory. Okay? You can have very many theories that can fit into a given research problem, but which one do you choose? Okay? And then you have, can you use that theory without losing a lot of information without losing the ability, without making your research lose meaning or intellectual power. It's just like a cloth. When you're going to dress up, you need to know which size actually fits you well. Your theory should neatly fit into the research without losing a lot of variables, without removing that flesh from your research problem. And then the scope. How you can have a theory that makes your research problem very narrow, but you can also have a theory that widens your what? It's just like a cloth. The example of a cloth fits very well. Okay, so you can have a very big cloth, it's not good. You can have a very small cloth, that is also not good. So you need to find which one fits you quite well. Okay, so theories are not static. They can always change as new evidence emerges. Okay, and like what we said earlier on, it can be iterative. You can always keep modifying, and the iterative is very common with the qualitative research. And let me say this here, that with qualitative research, you may not have a complete data collection tool until you reach the field. And sometimes you reach the field and then come back and adjust the proposal. That is qualitative research. So qualitative research is more iterative. And this is because the theory that you can be applying to your qualitative research may change along the way. So you come back and change a few things. So with qualitative research, as you collect more data, you come back and refine your research proposal or methodology. Okay? So as data is analyzed, you start to identify relationships, new concepts start to emerge, and then you start adjusting your theories. Okay? So that means that you adjust your theory as you do the research. Research and theory is that research influences theory, but also theory influences what? Research. It is two-way. Can improve the research, but also the research can improve the theory. They're just like a cloth and your body makeup. So you need to choose the right size, or you need to make the right choices. But not all people believe that it is okay to use theory for research, so they actually disagree. Why? Because they think there is a possibility of forcing your data to fit the theory. If the theory does not fit, if the research does not fit neatly into the research, into the theory, please abandon that one theory. Because you have many variables that you're leaving out, many angles to the research problem that you're leaving out. Okay? And then some people talk about research theories being very subjective narratives. Okay? And then, of course, some people look at some theories can be restrictive in that they can either provide an exploratory approach to the research problem. That means you basically explore and you don't provide an explanation. So there is need to have a balance in what you are investigating. Okay? So that is what we have covered so far is basically looking at how neat can we have a theory in research, and how neat can research fit neatly into theory. Now, the next few slides are going to explore the examples of different research areas and how theories can be used to enhance them. Okay, just like as the theories give us good research. How do we use theories to get good research? So the first one, there are quite many, so that I'm going to go through them very fast. I'm using examples of public health, but you have examples that can apply in the different areas, whether it is healthcare management, whether it is nursing, regardless of which area you're talking about. Okay. So we are saying that theories act as a conceptual base for understanding and analyzing research. For example, if you use the health belief model to understand why people undertake certain activities or not. For example, COVID-19, how many of you got immunized? COVID-19. Few people got immunized, others did not get immunized. Why did the other people the other people get what? Immunized. For you to understand the reasons as to why they did not get immunized, you can use this one, the health belief model, to understand why people did not get immunized. So when you look at the health belief model, it breaks down the reasons into different categories. It can be one, the benefits that the people who did not get immunized or those who got immunized, what they think are the benefits, what we call perceived benefits. Okay, one is perceived benefits. The other is perceived threats. If I take the COVID-19 vaccination, what is likely to happen in terms of side effects and many, and then what you call cues to action, what are those prompts that make them to go for those immunizations. So this health belief model breaks down all these factors for you, and then for you in your questionnaire, you'll be able to ask questions that are related to these things that make up this model. Are we clear? Simplifying complex phenomena, and it guides the research. And in this example here, we are using social determinants of health. All the factors that influence health, we call them social determinants of health. It could be the level of income, level of education, access to healthcare, and many factors. Okay, so you can ask yourself a question related to the risk factors associated with the, let us say, particular health outcomes. Okay, the children who get malnourished, the factors associated with acute severe malnutrition, you can use this framework. So the questions will be based on the social determinants of health. And then the third example here is that theory can help structure and contextualize your research findings. Okay. So for example, the ecological model of health. This one still, it looks at the fact that health outcomes of a given population or given groups of individuals can be influenced by factors that can be individual factors, interpersonal factors, organizational factors, community factors, or public policy. Okay, so that means that you can still structure your questions or your research based on this framework. Okay, and then even in your interpretation of your findings, you'll use that framework to interpret your finding. You will say that the findings indicate that most of the people live alone. But those are now into social or interpersonal factors. Theories help in expanding the depth, intellectual depth of the research. Because if you don't use a theory, you are likely to leave out certain areas of the research that you could have explored if you had used the appropriate theory. So here I use the example of theory of planned action, which is that for people to engage in particular health behaviors, what are the predictors that they will actually be engaged in these behaviors? For example, if we say that circumcision helps in reducing the transmission of HIV, that is something that is known. But how many people are willing to take their children for circumcision? So you can conduct a study to explore willingness of individuals to take children for circumcision. But now you can use this theory of planned action to structure your questions. Questions about attitude, questions about subjective norms, questions about perceived behavioral control, questions about intention, and then questions to do with the behavior itself. Another example is if you want to conduct research to explain the rate at which people adopt particular products or services, you can use the theory of what we call the diffusion of innovations theory. And this one is cross-cutting. You can use it in any field, whether it is the business, whether it is the health. If you introduce a new product, how are people going to adapt that product? We have very few people who adapt it very, very early. Okay, early adopters. There are very few there. And then we have majority that will adopt here, 38, 34%. And then most of the people are late. People join in or buy the product later on. So that's what you have there. Without a theory, you have a naked research. Okay, so it still gives the explanation using the cultural competence theory if you're looking at health behaviors and how people adopt them. Okay, I think we can basically end there for tonight, or for today.